Waiting alone makes most of us uncomfortable. We don't like waiting, not at the traffic light, not for the internet to load, and certainly not when it comes to the deep desires of our hearts. We live in a world that worships speed. Instant coffee, fast food, next day delivery, on-demand streaming. Everything around us teaches us that if it takes too long, it's not worth it. And sadly, we carry that same attitude into our walk with God. We kneel down to pray, we pour out our heart, and then we look at the clock as if God is supposed to answer us in 5 minutes or less. We expect the Creator of heaven and earth to operate on the schedule of our microwave. And when He doesn't answer the way we want, when we want, many of us grow restless. Some of us get frustrated. Some of us even walk away from God. God's timing is not our timing. God's thoughts are not our thoughts. God's ways are not our ways. He is not confined by the clock we wear on our wrists or the calendar hanging on our wall. God operates on eternity's timetable. God sees what you cannot see. He knows the conversations that happened behind closed doors, the ones you were not present for. He knows the thoughts of your enemies, the ones they never spoke out loud. He knows the opportunities that will appear tomorrow, the dangers that are waiting next year, and the struggles that may overwhelm you if He released certain blessings too soon. He knows not only what you want, but what you can actually handle. And so in His love, God sometimes makes us wait, not because He wants to punish us, not because He enjoys seeing us cry or question, but because His love is protective. His plan is bigger, and His vision stretches far beyond today. God's blessings is not just for now, but also for the future. So the question is not whether God is able and faithful. God is always able. He is always faithful. The question is simply this: how long are you prepared to wait on God? Let's look at some examples from the scriptures. Joseph. God gave him a dream at 17 years old, that his brothers would bow before him, that he would be in a place of leadership and influence. But it did not happen overnight. In fact, life seemed to move in the opposite direction. Joseph's brothers betrayed him, sold him into slavery. He was falsely accused in Egypt and thrown into prison. Year after year passed. Do you know how long Joseph waited? 13 years. 13 years of wondering, God, did I hear you right? Was the dream real? Did I do something wrong? But in the right time, God raised Joseph up. Joseph went from the prison to the palace in a single day, and the dream God gave him came true, not just for his benefit, but for the salvation of nations in famine. What if Joseph had given up in year 7? What if he had decided to stop trusting God in year 10? He would have forfeited the very destiny God was preparing for him. Now think of Abraham. God promised him a son. God said, I will make you the father of many nations. But year after year passed, and no child was born. Abraham and Sarah grew older. The clock ticked. Hope seemed foolish. Yet the Bible says Abraham hoped against hope, believing that what God had promised he was also able to perform. And after 25 years, Isaac was born. 25 years of waiting, doubting, praying, believing. But in the right time, God came through. And then there's Moses. He spent 40 years in Pharaoh's palace, thinking he was somebody. He killed an Egyptian, fled for his life, and spent another 40 years in the wilderness, thinking he was a nobody. But it was only after those 80 years that God appeared in the burning bush and said, Now you are ready. Now you can lead my people out of Egypt. 40 years of waiting in obscurity before stepping into his true calling. Even Christ waited 30 years as the Son of God, working quietly as a carpenter, living in a small town until it was time to begin his public ministry. If the Son of God himself could wait for the Father's appointed time, who are we to think that waiting means God has forgotten us? And Hannah, faithful Hannah, she longed for a child. She wept, she prayed, she poured out her heart year after year, and one day God answered. And not only did he give her a son, but that son was Samuel, the prophet who would anoint kings and guide a nation. All of these stories remind us of one thing. Waiting on God is not wasted time. Waiting is part of the process. Waiting shapes us, matures us, teaches us faith, and prepares us for the blessings that is coming. But let's be honest, waiting isn't easy, because while we wait, the enemy whispers lies. He says, God has forgotten you. God doesn't love you. God isn't listening. If he were real, he would have answered you by now. And then he offers quick fixes, shortcuts, temptations. How many times have we been tempted to take matters into our own hands, to compromise our values, to chase after ungodly solutions? Some turn to witchcraft, idol worship, manipulation or deceit, thinking, at least this way I can get what I want faster. But hear me clearly, every shortcut outside of God's will comes with a cost. It may seem like a solution today, but it will rob you of peace tomorrow. It may give you a counterfeit blessing, but it will leave you emptier than before. The enemy's blessings are traps. God's blessings are true. The enemy's gifts demand your soul. God's blessings are free. The enemy gives with one hand and takes with the other. But when God blesses you, He adds no sorrow with it. That's why you must resist the temptation to run ahead of God. You must resist the lure of quick fixes, because what God has for you will be worth every second of the wait. So what do you do while you wait? How do you endure the silence of heaven, the ache of unanswered prayer, the passing of years without change? First, you pray, not once, not twice, but continually. Prayer is not about pressing a button and receiving an answer. It's about relationship. It's about staying connected to the heart of the Father. Even when you don't see results, prayer is shaping you. Secondly, you remain faithful. Don't sit idle, waiting for God to drop everything in your lap. Do what you can with what He has already given you. Be faithful in the small things. Serve where you are. Plant seeds where you stand. Joseph did not stop working just because he was in prison. He served faithfully, and God honored it. Thirdly, you trust God's character. When you cannot trace His hand, trust His heart. Remember who He is. Remember what God has done for others. Remember what He has done for you in the past. The same God who carried you before will carry you again. And finally, you hold on to hope. Hope is the anchor for your soul. Hope reminds you that God is not done yet. So again I ask, how long are you prepared to wait on God? Are you willing to wait 13 years like Joseph, 25 years like Abraham, 40 years like Moses, or as long as it takes like Hannah? Because if you are, then you will discover that God's timing is always perfect. He is never late and never too early. God arrives at the appointed time, and when He shows up, He doesn't just answer your prayer for today, He secures your tomorrow. When God opens the door, it will not just bless you, it will bless your children and your children's children. When God delivers, He delivers completely. When He provides abundantly. When He promotes, no man can demote. God's delay is not denial. His delay is preparation. His delay is protection and an expression of His love. So don't grow weary in waiting. Don't give up just because the answer hasn't come yet. Don't settle for a counterfeit blessing when God has the real one in store. Wait in faith, in prayer, in obedience, and with trust. And when the time is right, God will make all things beautiful. So today I leave you with one question ringing in your heart. How long are you prepared to wait on God? My prayer is that your answer will be as long as it takes, because I know the one I'm waiting for is faithful, good, and will never fail me. May you find strength in your waiting. May you find faith in your silence, and may you live to see the day when the wait turns into testimony, and you stand before the world declaring it was worth it. God came through, and He did it better than I ever imagined. Thank you for watching, and may God bless you.